Well, good morning, guys and ladies. It's been about a week and a half since I was able to make a video. Unfortunately, I caught COVID. Actually, my whole family caught COVID here at the household, and we've been fighting that now for a little over a week. So I'm sorry if I sound a little congested and a little out of breath, but I haven't been able to get out on the water and make a video this week. So I thought I would talk about a couple other things this week instead, and we go over a few things. But I have a lot of people ask me about electronics, and I know it's a lot of big debate on the internet about all the different electronics people have and the cost of entry and etc. So I wanted to make a little video, do the best I can here, and talk a little bit about what I think, my opinion, you should be striving to have on your boat if you want to, have electronics and be able to get out and really take advantage of being able to find fish and get on those fish and be able to catch them without spending a bloody fortune doing it. So let's face it, guys, I got a lot of electronics on this boat, and it's not cheap, to do all this. My boat is not the most expensive boat made. Obviously, some of these bass boats and stuff nowadays are very, very expensive. I went the aluminum route because this is the biggest, nicest boat I could afford, and it's a nice boat, and it was not inexpensive. I saved up a long time to be able to purchase this boat, and I'm proud of it, and it does what I need it to do, and I have no reason to go to a larger boat. The electronics that I have are electronics that I've gathered up over the last 6 or 7 years. They're not the latest, greatest Humminbirds. Obviously, my Garmin Live Scope is new, but I've transferred my electronics from boat to boat over time, and I started out with just one Helix. Well, actually, I started out with the very first model side scan Humminbird made, which I think at the time I had a 796, I believe was the name of it. I moved up to the electronics. I moved up to the side scan on the Generation 2 to a Helix 10 when that came out, and just kind of upgraded my electronics from that point on. Later, when they came out with the 360, upgraded it, added that 360 from Humminbird, and then obviously the Live Scope. They're all great tools. I use them for different things. But guys, let me be honest. I don't have to have all those electronics to catch fish. I fished tournaments for years and won a lot of those tournaments, bass tournaments, and I did that with my one Helix on the dash and a Helix 7 plain old GPS on the bow of my boat. I didn't use my bottom machine on the front of the boat. All I used up there was the GPS, and I had one network cable that ran from that GPS to my Helix on my dash so that I could mark waypoints on my Helix and go up to the bow and be able to see where that waypoint is. And that was helpful. So what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is what I recommend that you do if you're trying to get some electronics for your boat. What do I think that you really should work towards getting? And guys, I'll be straight up with you. I do not think it's a Live Scope. I believe the first good piece of electronics that you should put on your boat is a good side scan unit. And I've done a little bit with the Lowrance units, and I am not that familiar with all their new technology and their new units. The few units that I've looked at that had side scan, I did not see fish on their side scan as good as I see it on my Humminbird. Now that may be just because I don't know how to set the settings on those, or I was looking at an older unit. So I can't speak to Lowrance or any of the other brands on how well they pick up schools of crappie or bass, for that matter, on a side scan unit. I can speak to Humminbird, and I can tell you right now, guys, you can see them on a Humminbird. I can see individual bass sitting off to the side of my boat with my side scan sonar. So I can ride around, and when I go by a school of bass, I can see the individual bass sitting on the bottom. I can see those bass suspended up in the water column. I can see the crappie off to the side of the boat, both on structure and suspended up in the water column. And in the wintertime, when they're out in the channel suspended, I can even pick out some of those crappies suspended out in open water on my Humminbird side scan. I have a Generation 2. I think all the new generations probably work just as good, if not better, than the one I have. I have a 10. I have been in a boat with a guy who had a 9, and that 9 worked just as good. You can see them just as good on that. I used to split my screen on my 10, and I would have GPS on one side and side scan on the other, and I could still see the fish. So I would be willing to say that anything 8 and above, you should be able to see fish with that. Now, one thing you'll have to check me on, and I haven't done this, is they did not have the 8 size side scan when I bought mine. So I did not research that unit, and I am not sure if it comes with the same transducer that the 9s and 10s have. So you might double check that to make sure it comes with the same transducer. I had a 7 side scan for a little while that we put on someone else's boat, and it had a different transducer, and I could not see fish very well with it using its side scan. And I don't know why that was. I don't know what was different about that transducer, but it was a smaller transducer. It was not the great big puck that came with my Helix 10. Guys, this Helix 10, this technology, this mega technology, is how you find your fish. You do not have to have a live scope to catch them, but it will make all the difference in the world in your fishing game if you can find the fish. The fish are not everywhere in a lake. There are fish in all parts of the lake, but there is a lot of dead water in lakes. You can spend a lot of time fishing and never catch anything because you are just not fishing where those fish are. That 10% of the fish, 90% of the fish in 10% of the lake, I don't buy that exactly, but I will say that 90% of the fish are in a small part of some portion of the lake. So if you're looking for those crappie, like right now, you guys saw my last video, when I'm out there looking for those crappie, I may cover, 500 yards of the lake and find one school of crappie. That one school of crappie might have 200 or 300 crappie in it, but those 200 or 300 crappie are taking up a 10-yard square maximum circle spot of the water in a quarter mile of the lake. So you could do a lot of fishing and never find those fish. You could fish all around those fish for days and never find those fish. A good side scan, down scan, sonar will help you find those fish efficiently and much faster. Once you find those fish, there's multiple ways to catch them. A live scope makes it easier to catch them. It's a great tool because now you can actually see the fish in front of the boat. You can see your lure go down to those fish, and more important than anything is you can see the depth of your lure. So you can make a presentation to a school of fish and keep that bait at just the right strike zone to get those fish to come up and hit it. And you can pinpoint your cast better so that you are always keeping that bait in the strike zone. But guys, I was catching crappie using my side scan and just absolutely wearing them out before I got a live scope. And the way I would do that is I would go out there and use my side scan and my down scan, and I would find these schools of crappie. And then I would when I would go over them, I would look and see at what the top depth was at the top of that school of crappie. If the top of that school of crappie was sitting at 10 feet deep, I would take my 10-foot jigging pole, I would put me a slip cork on it, and I would tie my jig on there, and I would set that slip cork at about 9 foot compared to the length of that 10-foot pole. And I would stand up there on the front of that boat, and I would throw that jig up there in the direction of where that school of crappie was, and I would just keep doing that until I couldn't get them to bite anymore. And I caught them just about as good as I catch them with my live scope now. And as soon as I get a little bit better and I can get back on the water, I'm going to make my next video. I believe my next video is I'm going to show you guys how to get out there and catch these crappie without having to have all these fancy electronics. We are going to use a side scan because, like I said, I think if you're going to spend money and get some electronics, the first thing, in my opinion, you should do is to try to get you a good side scan, down scan unit with the mega technology, whether that be the latest Lowrance or the latest Garmin, or what I use is the Humminbird that I can vouch for, that I do see the fish. You guys see them on the videos, I show them to you. That is an investment that if you can save money and get that, that will put you on more fish than any other electronics that I believe you can put on your boat. It is just really, that is the game changer for finding fish. I don't need any of those other electronics to catch those fish. And guys, you may not know it or not, but a lot of times when I find these schools of bass, when I turn the boat around to go to set them on those fish, I turn all my electronics off. I'm not sitting up there on the front of my boat with my live scan just sending pings all down through those bass. I'm not up there with my bottom machine telling me it's 10 foot nonstop under the front of the boat. I shut them all off. I say I shut them off. I put them all in standby and turn the sonar off on them, and I don't look at them. The only thing I'm looking at on the front of my boat when I'm casting to a school of bass is a GPS waypoint. That's it. I just need to know which direction those fish are, and and that's what I'm fishing for. I'm not up there with a whole bunch of, I don't have that 360 on. I don't have that live scope on. I have any of that stuff on because I've already determined the fish are there. So my only goal now is just to catch them. It's not to sit there and look at them on my screen. You know, they're going to swim around, they're going to move around, they're going to chase your bait. Now it is a tool. Those things are tools. So at times I will use those, but normally I prefer, well, let's not say prefer. What I recommend is that you get good using the tools to locate your fish. You can use all the skills that you've developed as fishermen, whether you're new or you've been doing it for a long time. You can use those skills to actually catch the fish. Finding the fish is the secret, guys. If you're not fishing where the fish are, doesn't matter what lure you're throwing, you're not going to catch them because they're not there. And there's a lot of the lake that they're just not there. They may be there next week, but any given day, you got to locate those fish, and they move around constantly. They are not always sitting in the same spot. It may just be that they move 20 yards, they can move a half a mile. But from day to day on the lake, the schools of crappie and the schools of bass come and go. Just the other day, I went out one day and I found a brand new big giant school of crappie, huge school on a tree on a little hidden point. Thought, oh man, I'm gonna wreck these tomorrow. Took a friend of mine out there. We went back to that spot thinking we were gonna wreck them. They were gone, guys. I mean, overnight, the whole entire school gone. No reason for them to leave. They just move. Fish just move around a lot. It took 2 weeks for me to relocate where those fish went. Those jokers had moved 150 yards from there to another tree. So that's just part of fishing. That's how it goes. This fish have tails and they're following the bait and temperature changes and water clarity, and they just move around a lot. So the key to my success has been having a good unit on my dash. Having a good unit on my dash, if I had to recommend anything, I recommend you do that first. Try to get you a good unit. It doesn't have to be a big old 12 or 16 inch unit. Just try to get a good one, like a mega version that you can actually see those individual fish. You got good detail on it. Just get the biggest one you can afford. I know you can get one of these units. I think these 10s are north of $1,000, probably pushing close to 2,000. As you come down in size from the 9s to the 8s, obviously that's going to come down. If you can find a used one, get you a used one. If they sell a refurb one, get a refurb one. But that will help you the most. That will get you on fish faster than anything else. I've heard people say get a live scope first. Let me tell you what, guys. I'd kill the batteries in my boat if I was riding around on that lake all day out there with a live scan, looking back and forth trying to find a school of crappie. That is not an efficient way to find fish. The efficient way to find fish is learn how to find them on your bottom machine. Put one on your dash do that. If you want to have an upgrade, get a unit that's networkable and put you a little GPS of any size up on the front of the boat of the same unit, and network the two together so that when you see the fish on your chart and you mark them when you walk up there to your bow, you can see that waypoint you marked of right where those fish are sitting. But if you can't do that, hey guys, go old school. Take a buoy with you, and when you mark those fish, pitch a buoy out, right? And pull back around to that buoy and make those casts of those fish. Now, typically, I don't throw buoys in the school of fish. Normally, I throw buoys where I want my boat to be, and then I pull up and use that buoy as a reference so that I can keep my boat positioned where I know the direction to make the cast of those fish. And I'll make different casts until I catch one, and once I catch one, you know, then I'll hone in on where to cast every time. And that's what I did before I had live scope. So while I'm here, a couple other things I wanted to run by you guys, and that is I have got these t-shirts with the daylight to dark and the logo. Now, in my last video, this is kind of a cool one, non-collared, double XL, and I've got a hoodie in an XL. And in my last video, I mentioned that I got these shirts from dryfitfishingshirts.com. I actually said dryfitfishing.com. Guys, I had that wrong. I want to correct that. So if you guys are looking to have team shirts made, they do a lot of that. So look them up if you get a chance. It's dryfitfishingshirts.com. But they did a great job for me. I'm enjoying them, and I'm going to be wearing them. But anyway, I've got a hoodie in a extra large and this kind of camo color one in a double extra large. And I am going to give these away to the next person that sees me out on the water and comes up and introduces himself and says hello. I'm going to give them a t-shirt. One t-shirt per boat. And I've got a couple hats. So I'm going to give away a hat to per boat if you come up and say hello. And then I ordered from Lew's. I'm a big Lew's fan, guys. I'm not sponsored by Lew's, but I've been using their bass tackle for years. And I saw an ad the other day for this new Pro Target Lew's rod, crappie rod. And well, I jumped online and ordered one right quick like in a 10-foot because I couldn't wait to try it out. And I got it in. And this thing is super light. I mean, it is really nice, but it has one big flaw for me, and that is it's got a butt seat. And I do not like butt seats. I like to have a center reel seat so that I have some leverage and it balances my rod. But instead of sending this back and getting one with the center seat, guys, I'm going to give this away. So the very next person that comes up to me on the water and introduces themselves are going to get a brand new, unused 10-foot Pro Target butt-based crappie jigging rod. So keep that in mind when you're looking for me. I can't tell you exactly when I'm going to be on the water next. Obviously, I'm still trying to get over COVID. So that's, you know, that's been a slow process, but I think I'm on the mend now, and I'm hoping by this weekend to get back out on the water, either probably out on Lake Talquin, and we're going to make a little video of me showing you how to find these fish with just your chart plotter and catch those fish without using all the fancy electronics like my live scope. So I know some of you guys had an interest in seeing some fishing with, you know, without having all the fancy electronics, but I will tell you this, guys, I'm not going to go out there and fish and try to show you how to catch crappie without at least a good bottom machine, because I believe that is the key to being efficient on the water and finding fish quickly and getting on those fish to be able to catch those fish. But I will show you how you can do it with just a machine on your dash, no other chart plotter, not using the ones on the bow. We'll go old school. We'll throw a buoy and we'll just use the fish finder on the dash, and I will show you guys how to rig up with a slip cork and minnows and jigs, whatever I happen to have, and how you can catch those crappie without spending $3,000 on a live scope. Don't get me wrong, if you can afford it It sure makes it easy, but you can still catch them, guys. You can still catch them without it. But I do recommend getting a good chart plotter for your boat. When I get back out there next week and we show that, I'll show you guys the settings I use. I know I've had a couple people asking about the settings I use on my side scan. Guys, it is not fancy. I do not do any fancy stuff to get a clearer picture. There's a couple of tricks. One of the things I do is I take the quick connect bracket off the back of my units and plug my wires directly onto my unit. The reason I do that is those quick connect brackets don't let your plugs get all the way up onto the back of those plugs in the back of your unit, so you can get a little bit of play there and a little bit poorer of the connection. So I took those off. I plugged mine straight in. That took care of a lot of gremlins that I was having. I think that helped clear my picture up a little bit. As far as my settings, I don't run mine past 65 feet per side of the boat. That keeps the picture small enough that I get good detail. I can see fish good at 60 and 65 feet, so I'm usually running right around in that area. My sensitivity and my contrast, I just tweak them just a little bit, just so I have the color that I like to see. I like to use that amber color. That's my favorite, but a lot of the different colors work. Guys, that's really it. Some of the newer units have a high contrast setting, I believe, or something like that. And I've seen that work really good by turning that on and then adjusting your contrast and sensitivity. But you can do it just as good by turning it off and adjusting it. It's just your preference of how you want to do it and what looks best to you. But really, that's about it, guys. I do set my speed down around 4. I like to go real slow when I'm looking for fish. But I don't move very fast with the boat. I try to keep the boat around 3 to 4 miles an hour when I'm looking. Sometimes I'll speed up a little bit, but I start getting some distortion once I get up to around 4.5 to 5 miles an hour. So I try to keep my boat slow. And then obviously, it's important where you mount your transducer on the back of your boat, guys. You want to make sure that it's unobstructed, it's getting a clean flow of water. I mount my transducers on the very bottom of my hull. I don't mount them up on the step. I mount them down on the bottom of the hull so that they've got a nice clean set of water going by them. And another little trick I do that you guys might try is I tilt my engine up. When I'm looking for fish, I've got my jack plate up halfway and I've got my motor tilted up halfway, and I'm blowing that prop wash and all those bubbles up towards the surface and not down through the middle of the fish I'm looking for. If you guys ever go out with a side scan and you have a boat come by, go across that boat where that boat came by and look. You will see the disturbance and the current and the water and the bubbles go all the way to the bottom of the lake in 15 feet of water. So when I'm out there looking for fish, I try to slow down. I try to get that engine tilted up. I try to get it raised up. I try to get that disturbance away from my transducer and keep from blowing that all down on top of the fish that I'm looking at. Because, you know, when I was growing up, I thought 20 feet deep was just massively deep, guys. I thought that was just crazy deep to be fishing in 20 feet of water in a lake. As I got older and realized that if I stand on my boat's only 20 feet long, so, you know, that's not very far down there. So if I'm going over the top of those fish and they're only a boat length under my boat, they may be 20 feet down there, but 20 feet's not that far from the top, from the bottom of your boat when you go over the top of them. And if you've ever been over fishing really clean water, what do they do when you go right over the top of them? They scatter, right? They try to get away from your boat. So you're going over them, they're going out around you. And a lot of times the bass, even the crappie, the fish that you see as you're passing by those fish and you're marking them on these units, those fish aren't actually sitting still when you're marking them. Those fish are actually moving and they are getting away from your boat. So those fish are moving away from your boat as you go past them, and they may circle back around and be right back in the same area, but you do spook them with your boat when you go by them a lot of times. So keep that in mind, and maybe that'll help you guys out. And I look forward to seeing some of you on the water and giving away some of these items that I have. And you guys have a great week, and we'll catch up with you next time.